You may have been seeing a quote from Ridley Scott making its rounds over news sites and social media throughout the last 24 hours or so, one that suggests the legendary director and the legendary franchise he began in 1979 are parting ways. Where it's going now, I think I've done enough, and I just hope it goes further. The quote came from an interview with Screen Rant, which was originally part of promotion for the re-release of Scott's 2000 film Kingdom of Heaven. As it inevitably does with many Ridley Scott interviews, the subject of Alien came up, and that was part of what he had to say. It was the tail end of a much larger reflection. So to get a little bit of context, I wanted to check out the full article from Screen Rant and look at what he said further. From Katrina Yang's article. In an interview with Screen Rant for Kingdom of Heaven's 20th anniversary, Scott talked about his future with the Alien franchise, expressing his desire to part ways with it. While he voiced praise for James Cameron's sequel, he felt like the series was deadened after 4. He further recalled how he was hired to direct the 1979 movie in the first place, and why he returned decades later to resurrect the franchise. However, regarding his future, the director believes that he has done enough. Read his comments below. Exclusive. It is spreading like wildfire, and not really. I think I felt it was deadened after 4. I think mine was pretty damn good, and I think Jim's was good, and I have to say the rest were not very good. And I thought, fuck, that's the end of a franchise which should be as important as bloody Star Trek or Star Wars, which I think is phenomenal. At least I think the first one by George is seminal. It was as seminal as 2001. To me, it was that important in terms of film language and where you go next. From George's Star Wars, I was then offered, almost a year after, Alien. I'm fascinated by very good comics, and the best in the world was probably Jean-Giraud Moebius. Moebius was a French comics man who was just genius. I was staring at these, and suddenly I was offered Alien out of the blue. And because designer is in my blood and DNA, I just knew what to do with it. And I was the 5th fucking choice. Why you offered Robert Altman Alien, God only knows. Altman said, "Are you kidding? I'm not going to do this." And I went, "Are you kidding? I have to do this, because it borders and verges on heavy metal." So that's where I went, and then it died. A number of years after, I said, "I'm going to resurrect this," and wrote Prometheus from scratch, a blank sheet of paper. Damon Lindelof and I sat, then hammered out Prometheus. It was very present and very welcome. The audience really wanted more. I said, it needs to fly. No one was coming for it, and I went once again and made Alien Covenant, and it worked too. Where it's going now, I think I've done enough, and I just hope it goes further. So, my biggest curiosity about Scott's words has to be about the exact question he was asked by Screen Rant. You see the lead-in answer before he goes into his comments. It is spreading like wildfire, and not really. But unfortunately, this article does not give us the actual question, and while I looked for the larger interview, it doesn't seem to be published. Obviously, the question had to do with the current state of the franchise, and whether or not he wanted to make another entry. When it specifically comes to directing, I think we all already had the sense that, yes, he was done. He lent the franchise to a different vision. Fede Alvarez directed Alien Romulus, but Scott stayed on as a producer. Noah Hawley is helming the Alien Earth television series, coming this summer, where once again we have Ridley Scott in the producer role. So if it's strictly related to directing, then this isn't really that much of a story, and if you happen to feel it's a good thing to have Ridley Scott in that producer position, which I personally do, then there's no cause for any alarm. However, if it's referring to all involvement altogether, then yes, this is a pretty big revelation. This is the world he brought life to. It's the world that he resurrected after its death, and his insights have been of great value up to where we are today with the series after Romulus. One of my favorite parts of the whole lead-up to Romulus was seeing the promotion with Scott and Alvarez, the two generations, the old and the new Alien, side by side. That was something very special. So if he is walking away entirely, then that's actually kind of devastating. The thing is, though, it's just not all too clear if he means he'll step away from producing as well. If that's the case, then this summer's Alien Earth will be the last entry in the franchise with Scott's involvement. I guess we'll see how that goes. But how do you interpret the comments? Do you really think Ridley Scott is 100% done and walking away from all things Alien-related? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. I'll be keeping an eye out for further updates in the meantime, and if you want to keep up to date with me, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you can follow me on social media for more. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, on the account @alien_theory, and on Facebook and Instagram under the accounts @alientheoryyt. I'll see you next time. And until then, this is Alien Theory, signing off.